Welcome everybody. We are back with another podcast. Um and today we brought a really exciting topic, which is education. And for first sight it can seem a little bit boring. However, I do believe it will be really interesting, as education is something that is part of your life, no matter who you are, and you will learn throughout your whole life, so it's gonna be important. And as usual, Patrick is with me.
Yes. Hey everyone. Yeah, as Roland said, today's topic is quite interesting. As a matter of fact, I believe, at least. And my opening sentence would have been that I believe that everyone is concerned in this topic because we actually learn throughout our whole life.
Yeah, that's like something that, even though we usually reject, is actually true. And like, we're high school students, we know how it is with school, but obviously not just school as education. and also it is still a big part of your life.
Definitely. You must learn throughout your life. You must experience new things. And after that experience, you must try to not like memorize, but try to make it up like practical after a short amount of time.
Yeah,
So it's like you should learn about your past and what you've done.
yeah, indeed, indeed. And so I think we should just jump right into it and just kind of have an order. So let's start with basically the education of the past. Um, so we know that like for a long time, it wasn't compulsory to go to school. Actually, in case of Europe, the first thing was like priests when you had to go to school for it. Like if you wanted to be a priest, then you had to go to school. Of course, jobs appeared which were concerning university. However, learning and actually an education system wasn't really a thing until the 19th and the 20th century. Um, so my first question basically to you would be, what do you think? How was it to actually learn something in an era where there was no internet, where you didn't have so many people to talk to, when you couldn't actually reach libraries, and there was no education? So, what do you think? How was that?
Well, um, my first like my first thoughts were like I believe that when someone is in like the 15th century, for example, in Europe, it really depended on which kind of family he was born in.
Yeah,
So, just to make it clear, there were uh, actually different social layers. So, for example, we had the slavery. So, because of that, I believe they couldn't even have the opportunity to learn to read books, or at least learn how to read or like do math and calculate. So, and there we had the freemen or traders. And I believe traders were the first layer of the society who kind of had to know how like the money works, the money flows.
yeah. In addition to that, I think traders were the first one who actually started experiencing and learning from their experiences as they went by town to town
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and met. I think they were the only class of society when they met more than one or two families in their life. Like they met a lot.
So like they were the most multicultural man.
Yeah, yeah,
In Yeah, so it was a good point for them. And then of course we had the lords, and those ones who were like above the others. And I believe even though they were lords, most of them didn't really even were that educated like priests at that time, or just like a little more educated than the traders.
yeah. It like wasn't a point for in case of most of the knights and lords, as they had to deal with mostly military and leading.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And of course, when we say education, we don't just talk about like what you're learning now in high school or preschool. Actually preschool or primary school or college, university. We are talking about like everyday stuff too, like how to prepare your soldiers for a battle. So it was like a hard education at that time. It was really hard to learn the tactics, the right tactics on how to defeat your enemy. I believe it developed throughout the time, and of course, the discoveries and our researchers were like a huge backbone of this, like today's education.
Yeah, yeah, I see. Uh, Also, like, I think the most possibilities in this case were given to common people and to traders, as you also mentioned. Because like common people were like on the same class as traders, and common people had their own choices. Like usually, if you are born to a lord or a baron or something like that, your future is decided. Like you have to go what the family do. But as a common people, it's not really. But you are also not the slave to like you have to do this or like do agriculture. That was most of the cases. Um, and in this case, they had the most possibility to have their own choices if they want to learn, and also uh, the possibility to actually learn. I'm really curious. So would you know that in this era, kind of going to university, I'm not saying was uh, like forbidden or anything, but if you were an aristocracy, it wasn't really appealing usually. It could be, but for a lot of families it wasn't. So if you were one of these, if you have had been one of these aristocracies son, would you like fight for going to university? That's just obviously a theoretical question.
I don't know. I believe the era, like in that era, for example, in the late 16s, or I mean 16,000s, yeah, 16th century. I believe that most of the time, I have to think about it actually.
Yeah,
So I,
because it's like kind of a hard question.
so I believe, like in today's world where we live, uh, you are like a chameleon. So I mean, throughout the history or throughout your whole life, you try to like blend uh, into like the world, the real world, and try to figure out what's the best for you at that time, at that era of your life, at that time of your life.
Yeah.
So I believe back in like the 16th centuries, I wouldn't actually pick university. I would actually pick the opportunity of being a soldier, because it was good money back then, and it was, and as a matter of fact, back then good money meant good health, opportunities for your family, and
Yeah.
safety for your family, and you were like above the slaves and the peasants as well. So you had like the opportunity to just enjoy your life, of course, when it's not battle time or wartime. So I believe that university back then was a decision that wasn't the best for for everyone.
Wasn't actually the most clever decision you could have made.
Yeah,
Yeah. Also, in fact, if you train to, if somebody is trained to be a soldier, by the way, that's a huge education too, especially if we're talking about somebody who is at a higher rank, because then you have to know a lot about like war machines, way of fighting, tactics, and stuff.
yeah, of course.
And so, uh, even though it's an interesting question, if it's like it was it important to go to university back then? But anyway, whatever you did, you actually studied something. Like even the slaves studied how to work on the fields.
Yeah,
Um,
of course.
like obviously it wasn't good. Like they didn't have the possibility to do anything else, but in fact they learned, and that's at least something.
Yeah, at least something.
Yeah, and I think like we can move on to the more crucial one, and this is the present days, and this is maybe the most important, not just because we live in it, but because as far as we can say, two huge concerns of different education systems. Uh, Obviously, it very much depends on your country where you are and how that education system is. Uh, but I just say we're in Hungary and our education system sucks. And like to sum it up, it sucks in a lot of ways. Um, and so first of all, I think uh, to start with, what do you think of this like situation of practical and lexical knowledge? Because when I think most of the education systems have their upvotes, it's when they decide to focus on lexical knowledge or they decide to focus on practical knowledge. So like, what do you think? There is like the other, so one is more important than the other, or it's not, or both are very needed. Because like in case of Hungary, we in fact can say that we only learn lexical knowledge, and that ain't cool. Like that doesn't work very sufficiently. Um, but yeah, what your thoughts are?
So I believe that till a certain point, lexical knowledge is important, but I believe that this point should be right after you wrote your application for high school, and right after the second year of high school, you should have the opportunity to pick up practical lessons as well. Because I believe that most of the students at the age of 17 or at least 18, they start to discover themselves and they can easily pick one of their interests. And as a matter of fact, this interest should be in the middle. So this is what they should care about the most, and this is what they should do on every day, on daily basis. So, for example, right now, I actually don't care about that much of school because I just don't find my interest right now in school and in the subjects that I have. So
Yeah.
I spend nearly 1/3 of my day with actually uh, studying and learning the lexical knowledge that I really know that I won't need in the future. That means this 1/3 of my day is a waste of time. And as a matter of fact, right after I got home, I need to learn again because we have homework, a lot of homework. And I don't know where I can find enough time for my side hustle and to find my hobbies and try to focus on them. But I believe this is the same for you as well.
Yeah.
What do you think about this idea that we should have the opportunity right after we know what we want to do in life, that we can pick what subjects shall we study, like on a higher percentage of your schedule? So what do you think?
In my opinion, it would be really, really important to give students the opportunity to decide what they want to learn and how they want to learn it. So, in fact, as you said, at a certain point, lexical knowledge is needed, like just for the basics, to learn the basics of actually anything. The basics of even mathematics comes from lexical knowledge, even though it's just a very small part of it. So yeah, at a certain point, you really need to like learn the lexical knowledge. But I would say for every subject, you just learn it until it gives you the basis, and after that, you could go to the things you like. And in case of high school, I would say I will let students to choose subjects, and to give them a possibility to learn what they want and on what level they want to learn it. For example, if you already know to the fact that you wanna go to university with mathematics, then you should learn mathematics on high level since the beginning of your high school. And in that case, I would definitely make these classes the most practical possible. I believe there is a needed balance, of course, but in this case, I would say 40% to lexical knowledge and 60% to practical knowledge. And that would be the right balance for classes. So yeah, I will let the students decide this, and also it would be really cool to just give students the opportunity to try out subjects, because in a lot of cases you don't even know if you like the subject or no. And maybe that could be the first 2 years of high school when you're trying out things, and the last 3 years of high school if it's a 5 year education, let's just assume. Then you could actually choose those which you know you want to go with, which also can be something like a trade, but also can be something that you go to university with.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you.
And I would really like to see to make these things flexible, and uh and one thing to state, obviously not too flexible. Like, I wouldn't let students to like uh choo- choose as many classes as you want, choose uh any kind of class you want, and things like that. I would say, for example, choose 10 classes, choose at least one art, at least one nature science, at least uh, one, I don't know, sport lesson. And also, I would say choose, and I also would make compulsory to, like, for example, learn literature or history or mathematics. But if you only need the basis, so like the compulsory would only be to learn the basis, which would actually mean a lesson per week, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And that will make that compulsory. And for example, if you want to go literature more, then you could go to higher literature to learn it on higher class level, which you will need. But so yeah, I would make some boundaries for this flexibility, but I think it's really important to make it flexible.
Yes, definitely. So, I want to say something. So, as for those who are listening this podcast and believe that they are just yawning and they are just sucks at studying and learning, I want to say one thing. In Hungary, in like quite a strong high school, so it's a bilingual grammar school, we learn on a higher level than in, I believe, any kind of other European or European countries and American states. So our exam at the end of your 5 years, so graduation, is way harder than any kind of schools or any kind of regions or graduation exam. So in Hungary, we really suck because we need to learn every single side and every single just little detail about lexical knowledge. But as a matter of fact, we don't know about practical knowledge or practical studies and lessons at all.
Yeah, so like
Just to be clear.
Yeah, to like clarify it a little bit. Yeah, Hungarian final exam is kind of harder, but it's harder because you have to learn useless stuff. And
of
it's
course.
not harder because it gives you real knowledge, it gives you real things that you will need. No, it's way harder because for example, for the history final exam, you have to learn how people were dressed in the 20th century. Like, that literally happened. It was in the final exam. That was a topic. Which is like, if you see dressing in history, who the fuck cares? Excuse me? Like,
Of course.
Who cares? And so this is just one example, but Hungarian education system is full with this. And so at the end of the day, even though we learn more because we have to,
it's useless.
It's useless, and Hungarian people won't be more qualified than any other nations. Actually, I would say less qualified because we have just a very low amount of practical knowledge in our education.
Yes, definitely. And you know, this sucks when you're just 17 years old and you already know these facts, and you don't have the motivation just to go in school like next day.
Yeah.
Because you know that will not be like a progressive. That won't be a progress in your life.
Yes. And also, in fact, in Hungary, in a harder school, from a day you approximately till 9 hours with learning.
Yeah.
If we count like the home learning too, everything like homework and what they give you to learn. Like,
for the next day lessons, yeah.
Yeah, it's around 9 to 10 hours
of your day.
of day, and then we didn't count commuting, we didn't count, I don't know, your basic stuffs of life circumstances. And also we haven't counted that you probably want to go to a training or something, like that's very much needed for your health. And so basically your day can be full of with learning and with one hobby,
Yes.
and you have zero time after it.
Yeah, so like talking to your friends or meet up with your friends, or just actually spend some real quality time with your family, with your parents, sister or brother, or like your siblings. It can happen. At the end of the day, you realize that you sit in a chair. It's 11:30 p.m. already, and you're doing your podcast because you had to do all of this shit in the afternoon because you didn't have enough time for that.
Basically, the huge irony in this podcast is that we choose this topic yesterday to talk about, and the reason why this podcast is so late today is that Patrick had to learn for history exam. And like the irony is that we chose to talk about this education and what's the problem with it, when actually education system worked to make a podcast in time. And that's somewhere sad if you think about it.
Because this thing, what you love doing, must be behind those things that you are not forced to do, but it is compulsory to do. And sometimes you have to choose compulsory things over your hobbies and those things that you love, because at the end of your semester, you could be like kicked out or get the boot if you have like bad grades, as a matter of fact. And you can be like tired at the end of that semester that I don't know what I wanted to say. The first part was okay, but with this tired thing, I don't know what I wanted to say.
Let's be honest, minute. Okay. Anyway, if it's important, then it will pop in for you probably later on. So yeah, this pretty much consumes so much time from your day that it makes a lot of things impossible. And honestly, it's really sad because as a teenager, as a child, you would expect to like have fun, to have those crazy teenager experiences, and to go everywhere, to parties, to meet friends and stuff, which is in fact happening though, but just only in the schedule of the school. Like you organize your parties to perfectly match the time that you've learned everything and you are ready for school, and I don't know, everything like that, and you just know that you only can have party after it because it's gonna be so much.
Yes,
I
definitely.
hope it made sense.
Yeah, it actually made. But yes, we may sound like a little bit against education and learning and develop yourself, but this is not what's about. So I want to say something that is important, that we are not against education and learning. We are against this shitty schedule that we have 37 hours of like lessons a week, which is a lot because we have to be in school from 8 to 3 in the afternoon. And then when we got home, like because we live a little bit far from school, we like enter the room like for example 4 p.m. and then we have to sit down and learn our ass off till 7 p.m. at least because we have that much of that homework or for the next day. So we're not against the whole education, we are against the system that we are in. So we both believe that education and self-development is one of the most important things in life.
Yeah, yeah. The fact is that we're not against education. We're against the way of education that's happening in Hungary.
Yes,
And probably, but I wanted to mention this. Probably not just Hungary. I'm not sure. When somebody watches this podcast, be sure to share if you have similar experiences in your countries, because probably this is just not only a problem in Hungary. But yeah. And another thing, I'd like to. It's gonna be a little bit off, like another topic. But what do you think the way that teachers behave in school? Obviously, like there are different kind of teachers, and it can very much differentiate. But what I mean is, what do you think of those teachers who really stick to those traditional teaching methods to like get in the room, tell the subject of that lesson, tell everything, care about no one, and go out from the lesson, and that's all. So, what do you think? Do you think these are the motivational for students, or actually kind of bad for students?
definitely.
Also, like teacher bullying is a thing too. When teachers bully children or students.
Yeah, that's the thing too. Absolutely. And I agree with you with this last part of your sentence. And answering your question, um, I believe that these teachers had like those experiences that really affected their life and the way of their how they're teaching school. So I believe these teachers are like above 50 years old now in 2020. So I believe that like a 40-year-old teacher was born in 1980. So I believe that they are really up to date and uh, for God's sake, and fortunately we have relatively young teachers. So I believe we don't have that much of that bullying and we don't have that much of that type of teacher that you're asking me about. But I believe these teachers are really wrong and they should try to catch up with the trend, try to keep their head up and and they must learn new things as well, just as their students.
Yeah. Also, like just one little experience back in primary school. I was kind of bullied by a teacher. This was my Hungarian literature teacher, and and she was the exactly type we described. Um, and I do think this is so harmful, and not because like also can be because of the way as a children react to it and the way that it harms their soul, but also the amount of demotivation it gives. For example, in my case, it was that I actually hate Lecture and Hungarian grammar because of the teacher. Because of the teacher made me hate it. Uh, and so, because children are very, very influential, uh, I think these teachers should be way, way more careful with what they say. And in general, teachers should be way more careful with what they say, especially in primary school, because a lot of things can be mistaken, and a lot of things can actually define things for you in the even in the future, even in the long term.
Yeah, for example, PTSD, PTSD.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
or
It's like kind of similar, by the way. Like obviously, it's not like PTSD can also develop too, but the whole situation is kind of similar to PTSD. Just maybe you don't stress out on it, but because of that experience, you have strong feelings about it. It obviously depends on how huge of a thing it is.
yes, definitely. I believe so. What you said. I have a question for you.
Yeah, go on, shoot me.
Um, what do you think about today's education at our school? So, I mean, like, right after this whole pandemic. So, I mean, right now,
Like, you mean what's the difference with these restrictions we've got and
not
stuff?
just the restrictions, but like the attitude of our teachers as well.
Oh yeah, okay, I see. I see. So let's just acknowledge, like, as everything in 2020, it is influenced by Corona, and coronavirus, because we didn't have school for like, I think
6 months.
6 months, yeah. Uh, and so it's very different to get back to school. First of all, in Hungary there are restrictions. Uh, we have to wear masks at classes. Uh, we need to like have our hands
Sanitized.
yeah, and also the whole room, like the desks we have to sterilize all of them. Also, in the coming up weeks, we will have thermal testing too. I'm sorry, I didn't know the exact word for it. Uh, but yeah, so every little things that can matter in case of the spreading of coronavirus. Um, these are one things that I think definitely frustrates all the children, and so let's be honest, these restrictions, I'm not saying do not help at all. They a little bit too. But for example, we still have PE lessons together without masks, without any kind of distance between us, and in a room together. We sweat together, which is we in fact know the best for a virus. So I have huge concerns of the use cases of these restrictions. But indeed, this is something that's happening, and it's something that frustrates children and students, which kind of suck, because school is already stressing enough. School is already frustrating enough. Uh, and yeah, it seems to be a small thing, but wearing a mask for literally 8 hours is a bigger thing than we think. especially when you have to concentrate by hours and hours, because you have to concentrate to that subject and to another subject and to the upcoming subject, basically 7 to 8 subjects per day, and this little distraction can be huge in case of the learning, I think.
Yes, definitely. Because I believe that wearing a mask for a long amount of time can actually cause a lot of distractions like headache. After every school day, I usually get back home with a headache, and I have to rest for like 30 minutes at least because of my headache, and it hurts so much, hurts so bad.
Yeah, and like obviously we're not against of wearing masks. It is important. Just this seems to be a little bit too much. And also another thing is that all the teachers are pretty sure that we will have quarantine again, which can happen though. I don't know if it will. Like, we're not politicians, we don't know if it will happen, but it can happen. And so the fact is that teachers believe this, and everybody thinks that we have to fasten up the lessons, and we have to be more quick with everything we learn, because we have to learn it in school until we have this real school. And the problem is with this is, like, all the teachers expect us to get everything faster and get more things at once, and this would be hard enough with regular education. So regular education is hard enough too, but fastening it up and getting it more, for me at least, at some point seems to be impossible.
Of course, it is impossible. What do they think? We now in 10, like, so we in the year of like 10, so this is the right middle of high school, this class.
Yeah.
And as a matter of fact, last year we had, like, those subjects that like are fun and you can rest a little bit. Now, out of the 37, we have just 5 of those classes, like when you don't have to learn, and these are the PE lessons.
Yeah.
And all of our other lessons you must learn for every single lesson, because then you will be distracted and you won't be able to keep up the work.
Yeah.
So yes, it's really hard to manage your time.
Yeah, and honestly, I just sometimes wish that, like, we get back online school.
Yeah, because then back then I could manage my own schedule. For example, I could get up in the morning early, or if I wanted to, I just could get up like 9 o'clock in the morning. Then, right after I got up, I knew what I had to do for that day, because we had assignments already being in classroom, and I could schedule my whole day, so I could take a break whenever I wanted. It was good for school, but not for any other thing, I believe.
Yeah, it is and also from this, I think we can go on to another interesting topic of education, and this is self-development, because online school, at least for me, was really cool because I could realize how amazing self-development is and how important it is. So, first of all, I'm really curious about your experiences with self-development. What do you think of it, and how would you differentiate from real education, or like, is it real education?
It's definitely real. I believe it's more real than we call the real education. Because with self-development, you can actually get those skills that you really need in life. But anyways, actually, at least you know that you're interested in that topic, and then you can learn that skill concerning that topic, and then whether you will need it or not in life, that wasn't useless at all. Because as a matter of fact, if you're interested in something, then this interest can drop a little bit, but this won't be 0% throughout your life. So, for instance, for me, for a short amount, I was interested in like website maintaining and website
Creation.
creation, and I started a course, and it was really hard. It was like 5 hours I could learn through, but I gave the whole thing up. But actually, it was really useful because whenever I want, I can start this whole thing uh, again.
Uh,
And I believe it will be really useful because this is what I'm interested in. And those things that you're interested in will be always useful, I believe.
yeah, honestly, this is just so much wraps it up, because this is the beauty of self-development. Even though if you may don't know something completely, if you haven't learned it for so long, it is actually got to be your mind for like the long term, and it's also something that you can easily continue learning with. Because in case of regular school, you go in, you learn for the test, and after the test, I would say a maximum in 1 week, 75% of the knowledge you gained is over. It's like that was it. You never ever will remember it again.
Yeah, that will be good.
Yeah, but when you do it for self development, it's something that stays. Um,
Definitely.
my experience was with basically with YouTube. So in my case, the fact is that I'm not the best at languages. I'm actually not really good at languages. But as you can see, we're doing a podcast in English, and we do our channel in English. Uh, and I even suck in my mother language, which is Hungarian. Uh, but I'm here and I tried. Of course, bilingual school helped. Obviously, it cut me a basis. But I think when my English skills really developed was this YouTube era. YouTube helped me a lot with English, because I could use English practically. I constantly search for words because I need it for the script, and I actually practiced writing, reading, and learning, and speaking at the same time, and this actually helped me so much that now I think I'm kind of fluent and kind of good with English, and this this is something that even a bilingual school couldn't give me. Of course, it was really nice. Our first year with a lot of English lessons was really helpful, but it wasn't like what I learned on my own.
I believe that what you all said is completely true. And I want to add something to it. So I believe, and as a matter of fact, these skills are practical skills. And this is not just, I don't know the word, I forgot it. Lexical. This is not just lexical knowledge.
Because you actually learn it in the practice.
Yes, definitely.
You don't even you don't technically learn about it. You do it, and by doing it, you learn it. And also, in this case, I think enjoyment is just way bigger. You can enjoy self-development so much comparing to real school, because you can very well decide what you want to learn, especially because it's an extra thing in life.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, if you learn something that you love, then you will be more successful in it.
Exactly.
So the more you love the thing that you are up to, the more successful, and the more easier it will be to learn that.
Exactly. And guys, I know this may sound the most general advice of all time, but it's so true. If you love something, just do it. No matter what's that, do it. If you love it, do it. It will be worth it at some point, at some day.
Yes, and as a matter of fact, I would be rather broke and do what I love to do than rich as fuck but hate my own life.
Exactly, because you will spend half of your life it's working. Why do something that you don't like? And so self-development's really cool for that, because you can experience what you like. You can literally have a sip of it, and it's just so cool. And so I think, for a closer topic, what do you think in the future? How much self-development and real education will merge together, and how will basic education change in the future?
I believe that on the west side of Europe, self development and learning on your own is a thing. At least at universities and colleges. But in Hungary, I believe this will be a thing. Like, I hope it will be in a short amount of time, and at least at our universities. But actually, self-development will be definitely destroy the real education that school gives you. And I believe that I can say a good example for that. And this is what happened actually to you. So we have physics lessons twice a week now. Yeah, in the schedule we have twice.
Yeah.
And Roland is really interested in sciences, and he saw a video. What was it really about?
It was about CMB. This is cosmic background radiation. It's something astronomy stuff.
And as a matter of fact, one of the tasks in like what kind of college
It
was
was. So I also saw video. about an exam at MIT. It's an MIT astrophysicist exam, and the question was about CMB, and I knew the answer because of this video. Go on.
But as a matter of fact, he wouldn't even know what this thing is if he just learns what we usually learn twice a week in physics lesson.
Yeah, exactly. And
So that's the real thing here, that you can actually learn more interesting and more useful knowledge at home via YouTube or courses, or you can buy books or guests online. But you can learn actually more now, I believe.
yeah, I can agree. And I wouldn't say anything more about this because you exactly wrapped up my thoughts too. And I think we thought out for today. It's already been around an hour. So guys, one thing for a closing sentence. Really, education is something that you will find yourself in for your whole life. So what I would suggest to any young people, just find your way of education, what really works for you. And so this was all for tonight actually. I hope you liked it. If you did, then hit us a like, subscribe. Also, you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. We have all those things on the screen written. Be sure to check them out. And so, as usual, goodbye, guys.
See you later.
See ya after the blackout.